Hello, everyone. Let's wait for the slides. If the slides will not come, I will do that without slides, doing science. Okay, so I will scroll without doing the full screen because otherwise we will lose the ability. It seems that it will not stay. So we can do that for the moment without slides. I can give you the time to fix it eventually because it's my story. So it's not that hard to talk about me. I am Fabrizio. As you can see, I love your country, and my outfit is really representative of this love. So today I'm going to talk about my 30 years journey in Linux, because Linux is effectively 30 years old, a little bit more. In Windows 95 was in August 95 released, and we had at that time already some distributions of Linux that were starting from Unix. Linus Torvalds brought a port of an open source kernel, and at that time we were able basically to start using Unix for free when it was really an open source project was practically not existing. So in my journey, I will tell you how I started being a simple student. I started practically with computers when I was 8 years old. It was 1979. And here I think that I am quite old for everyone. So today, if we are at Oscar, this is my first Oscar. So if you are doing the bingo, I'm giving you a square box to fill. And so at Oscar, we are thinking about a new world, digital transformations, a lot of things. But really, we are coming from a past that is super exciting because it was how we generated the current status of our technology. So starting from who I am a chief engineer at a company that is called Veritas Automata, based in the United States. We do trust in automation, especially, but many other things. I arrived at that company after a long path of around 32 years of career. So you can imagine that I changed from being a system administrator when it was called that way, a programmer when I was coming out from the university, and also something that is called a system operator. That is not a term we use anymore. I saw a rising what is DevOps today. I saw a rising SRE, platform engineering, and the technologies that today we call as natural things, but that for me were transitions. And you can imagine that when you are a system administrator and someone is saying to you, from tomorrow you will call you a DevOps, you will say, what's happening here? Bad. It's the same transition that we are having from the current perspective to the AI. Everyone is scared about AI, others are excited, people are using it, and we know that it will be another transition time. So let's think about how I started with Linux. This is very interesting because when I had the first experience with it, I had an old IBM ThinkPad 486 with 25 megahertz CPU, and the first Slackware 2.0 were coming out with 25 floppy disks for installing the operating system and 35 to install X Windows. It took 2 nights to install Linux on the 486 laptop. At the end, I was getting a sort of terminal, like we see today is still the terminal, so I'm still familiar with that since 30 years. And I was seeing the first gray screen with a cross, a black cross of X Windows, and right-clicking, it was opening a terminal that you could have been killing with a school, clicking on top of it. So that was for me the biggest achievement of my life, because I was installing on top of Windows 3.1 and DOS, something that was completely new, and it was related to a technology that was open source, so for free. The kernel was something that I said, what is this kind of things? Immediately after, it came out Windows 95 that was having the same problems with blue screen of death of kernel panic that I was experiencing with Linux. So the first thing that I was noting about that was that I wanted to know more about the kernel. And I started to get inside the Linux kernel as something that also introduced me to the C programming language. And it was really interesting because Windows was not opening the technology and the source code to be available, while Linux was. And there was the battle war of that time. I prefer Linux, I prefer Windows. Linux is impossible to work because you cannot play games, you cannot do things. But on Linux, you could have been learning C, C++, programming languages that you would have been using also in Windows with Turbo C, Turbo Pascal, Turbo C++, and other things. So starting from that, there was no internet as today. It was with modem PSTN lines, so 33.6 baud. At that time, it was very slow. And one of the biggest challenges was connectivity. So to connect my laptop to another computer, I used the RS-232 cables, serials. And today, this is something that is considered history. But for me, it's something that I saw from my perspective and for my life as something that I wanted to learn and to understand fully. So I also started with electronics at that time, interacting with PIC microcontrollers, 88 microcontrollers from Atmel, and technologies that were giving me the power to do what we call together edge devices. It could be IoTs, whatever. So if you think about that, the first message that we have is that nothing is starting today. It is something that it's already existing. Calculators from Texas Instruments came out in the 60s. The Olivetti first laptop came out in the 70s, in the late 60s, really. So what we do today with open source, and also here at this event that is very important, it is that we are taking history, rewriting history, and also learning from history. What I learned from Linux is that it never stopped because of the hard times. It started in a battle with Windows, fighting against other operating systems, because Linux is one pillar of UNIX today, but at that time I could mention True64, HP Digital Unix, IBM, AIX. I've been working a lot for IBM on AIX operating system. So Power Series, different architecture. Today, when you hear about RISC-V, about ARM64, they are different architecture. Look at how lucky you are to have emulators that can just give you the power to run an operating system that is ARM64, and you run it like an x86 or an AMD 64. It is something that I didn't have at that time, and I looked at that time when writing this presentation just to think about how we can look forward at what is the maturation and what is today something that we call the Linux Foundation, but that it was a path where we were walking on top of something that basically it was starting from nothing, from 35 floppy disks, from something that was hard nights for students, and no one was believing in that. So now that we look at this Linux Foundation, the DevOps things, the cloud transition, think about the cloud is also something that looking at it, it has been possible because of the main amount of servers that we have on the internet is running the operating system called Linux. It's not Unix anymore. Windows is just becoming something where we execute .NET specific framework, microservices and architecture. There is still the need for staying with products of Microsoft itself. Okay. You have, oh. Okay, so let's reconnect. This is, if you have your bingo, there will be something that is called experience technical problems. You have everything here. So thank you for coming and to see what we are experiencing. You see that I was following my phone, so the early challenges, the evolution of technology, the current trends. Let's reconnect to the maturation that I was talking about. So the cloud transition, VMware. I don't like to ask who have been using VMware because in the conferences, many people are raising their hands when I ask things because I know that if you have been using VMware, you probably will not raise the hand. Or VirtualBox and similar. If you are shy, you don't do that. But you use VirtualBox and VMware. So VMware, I remember that I was working in municipality. And I was working fixing Windows 95 operating system computers because I have also always been interested also in putting screwdrivers inside the machine. I haven't said that I have two careers. One is in electronics, and another one, because I'm probably mind sick, is astrophysics. I don't have a PhD or other titles, but two careers that I took in the 90s, probably they are very outdated. So when I saw VMware for the first time, it was a Windows executable. And I said, okay, let's try. And I was able to run Linux inside Windows. So I was really excited. And then it was VMware with Windows inside Linux. Today, we are talking about Kubernetes. So something that is abstracting all of that. If you use Kubernetes and you can have KubeVirt, you will be able to run virtual machines by Kubernetes, killing completely VMware and the other emulators. Depending on the KVM, that is the Linux kernel virtual machine management, you can use technologies that are really better of what we had at that time. And I was talking about the DevOps culture, and here I mentioned just CI/CD because I was in the point when we were using SPN or other common system for working, then Git, CVS, and other things like those. The CI/CD pipelines were not really present. We were just messing around with problems that were coming from commits, merging, a lot of problems that we had at that time. Today, we talk about Argo CD, Flux CD, tools that are really a valid option to solve those problems. Or if you are using still Java, why not? Jenkins and Jenkins X, it's something that is coming from the DevOps culture. So I admit that when someone initially told me, you are becoming a DevOps from being system administrator, I was scared and unhappy, but today I'm really happy that I adopted DevOps as my next goal at that time, and today I'm still doing a lot of DevOps. I'm a chief engineer, so I'm generally leading a team of engineers, but I like them to enjoy what they do, and I enjoy that, DevOps. The impact now is that today we are not calling it DevOps anymore, and we are calling it platform engineering. What is platform engineering? It's not the scope of this context, but not my one. But it is really interesting how we go to the digital transformation. Today we are at Tosca and we are talking about OSPO, Open Source Program Office. The experience that you could have been with OSPO and the impact is that we are touching governance, something that was not reachable when I started 30 years ago. It was just something that was for engineers. Today it's for people. I was hearing another conference from a presentation from another guy that was talking about digital banking, digital public infrastructure, the inner source, that is the ability of companies to have something like software manageable with standards, with a lot of things that we were not having. I remember that when being a programmer without specific agile context or whatever driven design that you could have, it was just your way. So you started coding, no test-driven development, nothing like that. It was throwing lines. Today we call it spaghetti code. I'm Italian, so I like spaghetti, but don't do spaghetti code. Eventually we do pasta for other things. Digital public goods, the amount of things that we have, like Linux as public infrastructure is an example, but there are also products and software that we use for that. And it's reusable, and the fact that it's not proprietary is because of all of us. We are owning what we do. It's really interesting because it was like 30 years ago. I was owning my laptop. I was owning what I was doing, but I was really not thinking that today we would have been the world doing all of that. And the digital public infrastructure, I think that will not require comments. I put those acronyms with what they really mean, because today you participate to a conference, they will say OSPO, DPG, DPI, and everyone will say, what's that? Sometimes they are duplicated. DDD, TDD, a lot of these. We have DD here that is an organizer, so a lot of these. But we have really to think about the real meaning of the things, so let's call them how they are really. The acronym is good because it will be easy, but let's be available for everyone to understand what we do. The evolution, DevOps, DevSecOps, monitoring ops, SRE coming from monitoring, platform engineering, the role that we can start with, architecting cloud native systems. I started just administering UNIX machines. Toolchain, I used Turbo Debugger. It's really good because it was debugging step by step with tracepoints, similar to GDB if you are using GCC or whatever compiler that can be run on the open source machines. Now we use Kubernetes. Our developers generally will just have to run their software and not debug that too much, unless the best practices are not followed. And Dora, why not talking about DevOps research and assessment metrics? It's something that you should look at because the key performance indicators are really important to be considered. I had a message that we are running out of time. When we are talking about these things, there is always no time. And if you like beers, there is generally a table full of bottles that are empty until we finish talking, because it's really something that is exciting. The future trends, just the title is saying you what we are going to do. Here at OSPO, I learned that open source hardware with you in Africa, I've been learning a lot of things in the last days. Open source hardware is a reality that we have really to work with for the edge computing and for whatever we can benefit from that. The challenges are what we know for AI, security, prompt injection, whatever. For the edge devices, if the hardware is open source, it will be easy to create disasters. So let's consider all of those things, and let's start with the point that is evolving the career, study, be believing that what we do is really, for a long time, the future trends in Linux and open source. Here I just stated the AI because it's something that everyone is trendy. I don't like really to talk about AI because everyone is doing it, but I'm using AI. So I will say that at 54, I think, I don't remember my age, but it should be something that everyone should use in any case. And tips, don't be like me. Invent something new. It will be very, very nice for everyone if every one of us will do the contribution the way that they really feel. I don't know if we are on time for questions, because I've been not having my phone for some time, so I was not counting the time. Let's see. We are on time or out of time? Okay, perfect. So I give you this. Thank you, everyone. Questions are nice to come with LinkedIn, so I will respond to everyone.
Please, let's stand together. Can we take questions? Okay, we can take questions.
Questions? If there are no questions, I will do questions for you. So,
All right. Questions? Anyone with questions? I think we have someone here by your side. Yeah. Okay. All right. So quickly, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful session. I enjoyed it because I love Linux, and I think I'm following the same path you took. But I love the part you mentioned. You used the source code in C++ to learn programming. And today, they are talking of replacing the C++ with Rust because of the weaknesses that C++ has with, I can't remember exactly, but there's a weakness C++ has that making them to come up with Rust to replace the entire source code with Rust. So personally, as someone who is going into that field, I've been trying to know what Rust is about, and I heard it's difficult to learn as if you are coming into programming. So what do you have to say about that?
if you can hear me, yeah. So you want an overview on Rust. First, I will be very brief because here there is a conference to, a presentation to build on top of that. But I am for the replacement of C kernel with Rust, at least for many parts that are unsafe. When you compile with GCC something like a C program or a C++ program, you can use unsafes. With the W, you put the unsafes that you want to use. That is very bad because there is no structure control on your codes, and you will just bypass some checks that are done on the registries of the CPU. Electronically speaking, is a bad practice. Rust is also allowing you to do that, but it's used on the kernel to be safer in code execution. And it's also faster. So the idea of thinking about a compiler like C, GCC, or languages that are quite outdated for the current time, they are following the POSIX standard and evolution. We are having 20 and more revisions of the language. But Rust is way powerful, so we really need to remove that old concept of having C on top of kernel. The Linux Foundation is proposing that since a lot of years. I personally met all the people that are working and maintaining the Rust positioning for the kernel. We started with 15,000 lines of code this year as a goal, and I think we are already at 20,000. How to learn Rust? Leave it as something that will flow in your life, like it was for Golang. Golang is very similar to Rust. They are different in the syntax, but the concept is the same. You can have channels, you don't have objects. So remove that idea of object-oriented programming and go back to what Go and Rust can do for you. That will be the mind switch that you will have to follow for adopting Rust. And then start not by the yellow words, but something better, like in example, the Hanoi Tower game. learn how to do transitions and how to use channels, like in Go. And I don't know, I'm thinking about writing something on Rust. So write to me and we do it together.
All
That
right.
could be another thing.
All right, thank you. Let's have the second question. We have one more question.
Another one.
None.
They are very generous with questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I think we have a technical issue. Please, let's put our hands together for him once
That's for the
again.
bingo, for the bingo.
Okay, all right. Let's put our hands together for him. That was a beautiful session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you to all of you and to your
Okay,
council.
all right, all right. I must compliment the outfit that you have. You're looking very, very Nigerian.
Fantastic.
I think it's... all right, all right. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Let's put our hands together for him once more. Okay, so you want to take a picture?
Sure.
Okay, can we get a photographer to help with that? Quickly.
Picture here.
Okay, where's our photographers? Media. Wow. Okay. I think Didi will just help us. All right, perfect. Okay. All right, great. Please let's put hands together for him once more.